If you're looking for a quick and easy project for any embroidery machine, you should definitely consider stitching some beanies. Whether you call them beanies, skullies, skullcaps, toques, snow, or ski hats, it doesn't matter. They all mean the same thing. It's just a stretchy knit cap that keeps your head warm. I'm going to show you how easy it is to stitch these, and I'll give you 3 tips to ensure that your skullies are successful. Hey folks, I'm Lucy at Ballyhoo Creations, where I design dolls, plushies, and puppets that you can stitch with your embroidery machine or sewing machine. Check out ballyhoocreations.com if you want to see the patterns and designs that I have available. These beanies are a fast and simple project for any embroidery machine because you can use small designs with a 4x4 hoop. And you can find beanies for just a few dollars. I even found some at the dollar store at Dollar Tree back in October. So you can make your own too, like I did with this one. It's a good way to upcycle old sweaters and stuff. There are 3 things to remember with beanies. You want to float it, you want to stretch it, and you want to use a topper film. I'll give you all the details on those 3 things as we hoop and stitch a beanie hat. When we put a beanie on our head, it stretches out, and we don't want our design to look weird when we stretch this, so it's best to stretch the fabric and stitch the design when it's stretched a little bit. If you're worried because everybody says never to stretch your fabric, don't worry. This is one of those times when knowing the rules means you can actually break them properly. But you don't want to overstretch your fabric, then it would look bad. The best way to figure out how much to stretch your beanie is to just put it on your head and smack a bit of tape on where the design's going to go. And then when you take it off, now you know how much to stretch that beanie. That's how stretched it's going to be on the head. And when you hoop it, go ahead and stretch it out to that amount, and then you can take the tape off. You don't want to stitch through that. When you're going to stitch a beanie, it doesn't matter if you're using a multi-needle or a single needle, makes no difference because we're going to be floating this instead of hooping it. So it doesn't matter which kind of hoop you have. I would recommend you use your 4x4 hoop because you don't have a lot of real estate on a beanie here. This is a very small area, so whatever design you're putting on is probably going to fit in your 4x4 hoop, no problem. There's 2 different places you can put the design. You can put it on the cuff of the hat when you fold it up like this, or you could also have the hat more slouchy and you would put it down here at the bottom. You could also put it at the top. There's nothing preventing you from doing that, but typically we'd put it down here towards the bottom or right here on the cuff. This is nice because the back of the design is not going to touch the head. It's going to be up against the hat, so you don't have to worry about, anything scratchy on the forehead. And to float a beanie, it's very simple. You go ahead and hoop your stabilizer only. You're not going to hoop the beanie. It's too thick. It's not going to get into that hoop well. So you're going to actually just hoop the stabilizer. You could use a cutaway, or you can get away with a heavy tearaway, even though the beanie is stretchy, and typically you would not want to use a tearaway with something stretchy. It's also pretty thick and heavy, and so you might be able to get away with the tearaway. I have been. It's called Hydro Stick, and it's not sticky until you actually spray it with water. So I'm just going to hoop a piece of my sticky Hydro Stick, and then I just give it a spritz of water like that, and that activates the sticky in there. I may have actually overwatered. Let me get a little. That's maybe too much. That's a lot of sticky. For my beanie, this is the up right here, so I know that this edge is where the top of the design is going to go. And I'm going to go ahead and stretch it like I showed how you use that tape to show how you want to stretch it. And I'm going to center with my hoop. I'm not even going to bother with alignment marks or anything. I'm just going to kind of get it right there in the center. Just stretch that out. Press it down. You don't have to use the Hydro Stick. You could also use a regular stabilizer with a sticky spray. I've got the 505 temp adhesive. This is a good one to just spray this on your stabilizer, and then that will make the beanie stick to your stabilizer. And then I don't need this tape on here anymore. I'm not going to stitch over it, so I'm going to carefully remove it. But that's what got it the correct amount of stretch so that when someone puts it on their head, it won't get all warped out of shape and stretch around the design very oddly. So we don't want that. And the other thing that I want to do is just to make sure that this doesn't fall in the way. I'm just going to tape that out of the way. Masking tape is fine. If you have the 3M Transport, that's even stickier. But for this, beanies are pretty well behaved. These are actually pretty easy to stitch. And then the other thing with the beanie, remember we needed 3 things with the beanie. You need to float it instead of hooping it. You need to stretch it a little bit when you float it, and then you also need to make sure that you put a soluble topper. Water soluble or heat soluble is fine. And I'm just going to use a scrap of what I have. I don't usually even stick mine down. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. I just float mine on top like that, and then you can put that on your machine and stitch your design. And you can see, before I take this to the machine, whether this is on a multi-needle or a single needle flatbed, it really doesn't make any difference because the hat's all out of the way. I'm not trying to like get up inside of anything. It's a nice clean area to stitch in, so it doesn't really matter. The multi-needle is not really an advantage over the single needle, other than now I don't have to change my threads. Beanies usually stitch out pretty fast because there's just not a lot of room to put a big design. So I'm going to remove my topper, and now I'm going to remove it carefully from my sticky tearaway stabilizer. And again, tearaway is a little risky. I'm just saying that with this hydro stick, I have not had any problems. I've been doing a few beanies now with this. It's working really well, but I haven't tried my other tearaways with it, just the sticky. And that's all there is to stitching beanies. They are actually a very quick and easy project. Just remember those 3 rules that I told you about. You want to make sure that you float instead of hoop. You could use a sticky stabilizer and adhesive spray. If you really wanted to, you could do a pinning or basting box, but those are a little trickier. You also want to make sure you stretch the beanie just a little bit before you stitch on it so that when it's being worn, it will look okay. And then the last thing is make sure that you use a water or heat soluble topper so that the stitches don't sink into the really stretchy, fluffy fabric. And that's really all there is to stitching a beanie on your embroidery machine. This is one of the few wearable projects that it is just as easy on your single needle or flatbed machine as it is on a more expensive multi-needle machine. And beanies are both unisex and great for all ages, so for anybody who wants to keep their ears and head warm, they might like these. I never even realized how popular these were until my husband bought several embroidered beanies from Amazon. And I was like, what are you doing? I can make those for you. That was like a year ago. So I guess that's maybe why he went to Amazon, because they have 2-day shipping and I take a whole year. Anyway, I'll leave links down in the description box for all the tools and materials that I've used in this video. And please consider using my links if you're going to make a purchase, because that helps fund this channel so I can make more of these videos for you and it doesn't cost you anything extra. Okay, that's my whole sales pitch. See you later, folks. This is one of the few wearable projects where it is just as easy to use your single needle. We all have single needles.